This podcast is brought to you by NordVPN, and as you can see, I'm here in a hotel room. I'm away in Las Vegas, Nevada, but I am protected, all thanks to NordVPN. The hotel Wi-Fi, great, thank you so much, Results World, but I want to be safe, so I'm using NordVPN. When I am away, I like to stay in touch with everything happening back home, which is now Australia, but also England as well, and I get to use all the apps, all the streaming services with one click of a button. In fact, no, I don't even need to click. It is on 24/7, 365 for me, NordVPN, because I don't want to worry about any of those people that are trying to get my sensitive information, my password, my login, my banking details. As we all know, our lives are on our phone now. So why not protect it with NordVPN? I often wish I could be in two places at once, Sydney, Liverpool, but I can't be. But I can be with NordVPN. I get to switch my location at the click of a button, which gives me advantages to be in two places at once. We all know we've got that overseas friend. Have you seen that show? Can't get it. Well, yes, you can. If you've got NordVPN, you can hide your location, change your location, and watch all the shows that those overseas friends get to enjoy that you don't. So to get the very best deal from NordVPN, head to nordvpn.com/James Graham, where you get 4 free months with a 2-year plan and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Click on the link in the show notes. Hello and welcome everybody to another edition of the Buy Round. Now, forgive my nerves because I am with a fellow podcaster and a fellow former NRL player, so I feel like I've got to up my game. I might actually lean in and get a few tips on how it's done. Welcome to the show. Oh, and also, fellow runner.
Yeah, welcome.
Fellow runner. Welcome to the show, Keegan Hipgrave. How are you going, my friend?
I'm good, brother. Mate, that was a beautiful intro.
Yeah, the
mate,
best.
You've done hundreds of these. You are now a veteran, I would say. You're looking very good.
I'd say of all the intros I've done, it is certainly the most recent.
Gotcha.
So yes, that's what I'm leveling it at, mate. You've got this life going on with media. You finished playing not that long ago. Interested to hear how it all began. But at the moment, you're running the 7 major marathons this calendar year. Quite the goal. All from November. So a magnificent cause. Talk to us about how and why this all came about.
Well, dude, first of all, thanks so much for having me on. I feel like when I first started thinking about doing a podcast and having potential people on, you were definitely one of the guys that I was keen, because even just our relationship in the NRL, both playing, both relationship having concussions and a few head knocks, and now doing a little bit more in the podcasting space. So first of all, grateful to have you on, dude. Or grateful to be on, I should say. But yeah,
mate, you take over. It's your
show.
Actually,
thanks for coming to the Buy Round. My name is Keegan Hipgrave, and welcome in. No, dude. The Major Marathon Project it kind of just came out of a place where we were having really beautiful conversations on the podcast. Keegan and Company, our podcast is very much resilience, mental health, high performance, focus. That's kind of where we sit. We have conversations with a couple athletes that, as you know, are super influential in the space. And so we're having these really beautiful conversations around mental health and struggles and overcoming struggles. And then I thought, okay, well, what does walking the walk look like? What do we do every day that is good for our mental health? Look at running. Running and physical activity is one of the best preventative factors towards poor mental health. And I love running. Since leaving the game when I was 24, I dipped into the ultra marathon space, dipped into the running space. And I loved it, and I could feel how good it was for my own mental health. And I was like, okay, well, Sydney just became a major last year. I think did you run that one?
Not the one before it became a major. I got injured for, unfortunately, pulled a bit of a calf in training.
It's an old man injury.
Yes,
dude.
yes, it is. Yeah.
But I was like, okay, well, with the addition of Sydney, no one would have ever ran all 7 in 1 year. So it's Tokyo, Boston, London, Sydney, Berlin, Chicago, New York. And I was like, well, that would be pretty cool. And also from our point of view, like we're trying to grow the podcast a bit more globally. We want to have conversations with people in the UK and the US. And I thought this is almost the perfect project, the perfect initiative to not only raise a heap of money for Movember, because we've got a goal of raising $100,000 for Movember for the year, but also have these conversations on a global level. And so once I have this thought, I remember talking to my partner about it. I came in, I was like, I've got an idea. I was like, what do you think about this? And she's like, you're nuts. Like this is gnarly. Like, because it is hard to get a major ticket. Like to get one ticket alone is hard. Like I think Sydney had 103,000 entries and there's only 30,000 runners. And New York and Berlin and Chicago and like they're even bigger than Sydney. We're probably the smallest. So it was just like, how do we make this work? And we kind of just jumped into it and we're doing it.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to pick up on something that you said there. I think running, being outside, so good for physical health, mental health, emotional health. So I imagine there's some people listening there and, you know, it's not about trying to run 7 marathons or I'm doing a backyard ultra in a couple of months. It's not about that. It can become that, but I'm going to, you know, take our listeners back to the June, July of 2021. I'd had major hip surgery and I was starting back running again and I was, or maybe it was a bit later than that. Anyway, just you know, it doesn't matter. A friend of mine, Nick Youngquest, he's like, come for a run, do this half marathon, and then
space.
I did 4K, and the last 2K, like my hip was in agony, and that was the case each and every time I run, pushing that 1 kilometer more. I'd be able to run for an extra K, pain free, and then, you know, the last 2-3 Ks it was agony.
Just from post surgery?
Yeah, just post surgery. Yeah, had a hip resurface. My surgeon told me you won't run past 5K ever again. And those first few runs was like he's right. Wow. He's right. But I was determined to sort of prove him wrong. I don't know. It's just one of those things when someone says you won't. It was like, well,
you're definitely that way.
I'm gonna try and do it, mate. So yeah, and just what this journey can become. So a lot of people out there that are maybe listening to this go, oh, come on, mate, I'm not going to run a marathon. What's the point? I'm not going to run 7 marathons. It's not about that. There's benefits, like in terms of being able to push yourself, the conversations, that feeling post-run. It almost becomes addictive.
When you were playing footy, did you ever think you'd be running marathons or backyard ultras when you were playing?
To be honest, I probably maybe flirted with the idea, thinking they were easy.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Well, I mean, look at the NRL. Like, it is so hard. Like, being in that system for so long, it is so hard. I remember when I was at the Titans, I'd have conversations with the boys in our circles, Pete, Anthony Don, Mitch Rain, and we would all say, there's no way that we're going to be running afterwards, especially when you're in the thick of preseason and you're doing big Ks. Like, there's no way we're going to be running. And all those boys are now dipping their toe into half marathons. I think it's because a lot of them, I can only probably speak for myself, but probably have done a lot of hard things while playing footy. And then once we leave, it's kind of like, all right, well, what's that next challenge? Like, I don't know about you, but I like being in that space where it is really hard. And having that challenge to overcome, I think is really cool.
I think that the culture of retired athletes is also changing too. Yeah. That it used to be, hey, I've gone all in on my footy career. I'm full of aches and pains. I'm just going to put the cue on the rack. And exercise was a means to an end. It was punishing. It was grueling. And that chapter of my life now is now closed. And I think now there's a culture of former athletes that are starting to go, well, you know, obviously the risk of concussion, we know that exercise and health span, lifespan is affected by the ability to exercise. There's nothing better out there. If you could put exercise in pill form, you would make an absolute mozza. It just requires your time. And I think ex-athletes are twigging onto that. And even things like, you know, I'm not a medical doctor, but a little bit of pain and you can quickly see results by being in shape. You know, your weight gets down through running. Maybe the knee's a bit sore, but you feel better because you're not carrying around 20 extra kilos that you shouldn't be carrying around, right?
But you can also adjust it based on your injuries and past history, right? Like there's 1,000 things you can do. Like you can swim, you can surf, you can run, like you can bike. Like cycling for us bigger bodies is actually really good cardio before going into a marathon. Like, and I love what you said around like the past guys really leaning into that space because I can definitely see it. Like when I was at the RLPA, like they had the Keep Fit, Keep Connected initiative, and you see like a heap of the old boys coming through, still lifting, still going on runs, still doing these things. And it was awesome to see that. And it kind of like encouraged other crew to do it as well. Because you'd come in, you'd do a session like, oh, I actually miss this. I actually not only miss being around the boys, because you talked about community, how important that is, but actually just that feeling of like, okay, now I've got one run on the board. Wonder where else I can do this. Kind of like after your hip, like your hip surgery, it's like that 4K was gnarly. Like it was so tough. But then you go on to run a marathon after that. Like,
yeah, well, I did the half marathon, and honestly, at the end of it, if I was an animal, you would have just put me down. I was in all sorts.
Yeah, man.
Like I was so tired.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was an emotional dump. My hip was in agony. I fell to the ground. Like I had medical, ambulance people coming like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm just really tired. And they were like,
so you should
all right, okay, yeah. And the idea of repeating that was just a big no. But then, you let the dust settle and, I'm not going to act on emotion.
Yeah.
Or like keep myself accountable to that, like, oh, I'm never doing that. I can't do a repeat of a half again, if that makes sense. And then did the fall and learned again so much. And you asked that question before, could you ever see yourself doing it? Well, I thought marathons would be easy because nothing can be harder than the game of NRL.
Yeah.
Now, it's just different.
Yeah.
And all the different ideas around like. So we mentioned Nick Youngquest, and we'd do a bit of training. I was like a bull out of a gate. Like we'd do maybe a 10K, and he's like, Jamie, you need to slow down. He's looking at his watch, and he's like, mate, you need to slow down. I'm like, no, I'm sweet. I'm feeling good. He's like, mate, we're not football training here.
Yeah.
You think about the conditioning at footy. It's like you go as hard as you can and then hold on.
Yeah.
And, you repeat sprint efforts. Your first one's got to be your best. And you don't really save anything. You think about the Bronco, the 1.2.
Yeah.
Everyone goes hard in that first 20, 40, 60 and just holds on for dear life. And for marathon training, it's different. And, Nick was talking to me about negative splits. And I'm like, what? Your second half of your run is your best half? Like, nah, mate, you've just got to go hard. You've got to get after it. And he's like, nah, mate. And then even like taking on all the gels and the caffeine and stopping for food along the way. I remember we did a run along Cronulla. He's like, I'm just going to stop at a water bubble. I'm like, come on, mate, you don't need water. Like, we'll just crack on.
Yeah.
And like now all these things that I've learned about saving yourself for the last half, the heart rate training, all this sort of stuff. It's just cool to be a part of that and great to learn like about new ideas or different methods, different ideas.
It's also something about like throwing yourself into something that's completely foreign as well. Like I was talking about brain health, like learning new things is so important for brain health, as you would know better than anyone, right? And so when you get into running, it's obviously great for you. But the ability to be like, yeah, okay, I'm actually really new to this. Like, what does my like 2-day carb load look like in the lead up? What does my recovery look like? You're talking about negative splits. Like, what even is that? Like, even understanding that your long run should be slow and you should be running it in like a zone 2, barely zone 3 and over for like 2.5 hours, 3 hours. Like, these are all like really new things for me, and I'm guessing both of us as well. But really cool to like dip your toe into new things, I think.
One thing that is a quick lesson to learn is chafe prevention strategy. You only get that wrong once.
You've got some trunks there, brother.
You only get that wrong once, and then you don't forget the chafing cream before you go on your long run, because geez, it can sting for a couple of days.
Dude,
Make the mistake of running near the ocean and hop in the water after the long run. You're quickly out of there.
Yeah, I get it 100%. Bro.
Yeah, 100%. I again, like, go a little bit off track or keep on track with the running. The toe socks, the type of shoes that make
you go toe socks.
not yet.
Yeah.
But I've been told for the backyard ultra, they are like so important for blister prevention.
Do you have a time or how many laps you want to get for the backyard ultra?
Yes, I do.
Have you put it out there yet?
No.
Do you want it or no?
Well, a friend of mine, Mark Cohen, he signed up. He said, "You fancy doing it?" We've spoken before about doing there's a company that run 7 marathons, 7 days, 7 continents. You go on like a charter flight.
Whoa,
and do
I think
it.
I've heard about this.
I think you meet in maybe Cape Town or Buenos Aires. You got to get yourself there, and then this charter plane takes you around. It's all like, so we've spoken about doing that before. All these different things, but he's like, this backyard ultra, he put me onto it, and I said, well, let's do it together. And then we were at his Christmas party, like beautiful house that he has, and all, like I know like his mates as well, and oh, you're doing the backyard ultra, like, oh, how many laps are you gonna do? He said to me, mate Mark, and he goes, 1 more than him, and I'm like, oh, okay.
This is the start of something beautiful here.
He goes, so the other lad goes, oh, Jimmy, how many are you doing? And I was like, 1 more than him.
Man.
He's like, do you want $1,000 on it? I'm like, let's do it.
Did you really?
Yeah.
So
there's
go.
There's 2K in the kitty for whoever goes longer.
Oh, I love hearing
And then this
this.
deliberation between the former athlete, and he's done Ironman before, but he's probably it's over a decade. So like this, I know he's got greater mental strength than maybe I give him credit for, and as well, he also at the same party, he's like, if the Seahawks go to the Super Bowl, make it, I'm going. And obviously they did, and he's been there. So he sent me a picture of this backstage pass that he got, and I sent him the picture of the 25K that I just run. So I was like, mate, I'm coming for you. All that's happening.
That's really cool. And I reckon the fact that you guys have that little competitive will push you to go so much further than you could have gone. Because if you go 6 laps, what's that, 60K? Pretty wild effort, because it's a 6.7K lap. So it's just like, if you have that thing with your mate, you'll be able to go so much further. We were talking about the BPN documentary of their backyard ultra. I think it was in Austin on a farm, and I won't spoil it for you
please don't.
because the documentary is incredible. But the 2 guys at the end of it, they wouldn't have gone as far as they did if they didn't have each other there, and they were just going back and forth, and they were just hanging on. So you should like make a little content thing out of this, because I feel like I would love to watch this.
Yeah, I think that's the plan. The danger, the difficulty is getting someone there to film it for potentially 24 hours.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know,
sure.
Charlie's going to have to come along and pull an all-nighter without without booze or anything else. So
we got invited to do a event called Red Bull Race the Sun coming up on the 29th of May, and it's like essentially it's like a team of 6. And you've got from point A to point B, I think it's from like Surfers Paradise to Tenterfield. It's 345 kilometers, and you've got to beat the sun. So sunrise to sunset, and your team races it. And this is the thing. It's like we want to create a really cool content piece out of it. We want to make like a little doco. We'll invite people who've been on the podcast before, and luckily we've got some really incredible runners that have been on the podcast.
So collectively, you've got to
So you've got 2 cars. We've got 2 cars. We'll probably use our partner, 7th Drive, who have some really beautiful either G-Wagons or Chevys that we'll be able to use, hopefully. Got to talk to him to see if he'll let us use them for something like this. But essentially, we've got 2 cars, a team of 6, and then where one person starts and they might go for 10, 20K, and then next person will jump out and then they've got to go. And you've got to work in, and some people get tired, some people are sleeping, and you've got to navigate this throughout 12 plus hours, right? You got to beat the sun. That's essentially that's the goal. And man, just like these cool little activities that we're all throwing ourselves into. But where I was going to, we've got our team at the Keegan Company podcast. They're going to come and like film it all. But they're incredible like ultra runners and trail runners. So they've been doing like a long time awake, like 24 hours plus. So they're rock solid when it comes to the filming the long-term stuff. But it is impressive, man. It is impressive. And it's cool. It's a cool thing to throw yourself into. We did a podcast with a guy called Harry Garside recently. might know him. He's like a professional boxer,
Yeah.
but then also does these really hard, gnarly challenges. Like him and Ned Brockman recently rode their bikes from Perth to Sydney, like really gnarly. And I was
Just
like,
as you do.
I was like, why do you do this stuff? And he said, Keys, like, I want to be able to throw myself into these challenges. I want to be able to collect war stories and have these really cool experiences. So at the end of the day, when I'm all packed up, it's like, I've had this really cool, impressive life. And when he said that, I was like, I kind of like that.
Yeah, for me, there's, I guess, finishing football. It's great to have things to focus on, and almost a bit of a addictive personality. And this is a healthy addiction. I do worry that maybe it can become all encompassing now. Like I'll be away, and I've recently been to Vietnam, and I'm there like running through Ho Chi Minh City, and there's this big white guy with his shirt off, like in there, and I'm running through scooters, and
crazy.
Yeah, and we went to Phu Quoc and running through the town, like little school drop off happening, and I'm there pumping through the streets as these like outdoor butcheries, and I'm like scooting in and out of traffic. Like if there is a decent chance that I get ran over very, very quickly, because I'm not one for stopping. I'll just go and...
Like you would put a dent in the car or the motorbike. What do you mean?
The Vietnamese were very wary of this big pasty white guy running through. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to tie this back to the why, and obviously through Movember. And there are a certain type of people that this can certainly help, but the psyche of people. But can you tell us a little bit about how you became so involved in Movember, and why this is so important to you, and what there's many great causes out there, but what are some of the outcomes that you're hoping to achieve?
Mate, really, really good question. I find like typically when someone is an advocate for a certain topic or charity, usually there is a personal relationship. I've been involved with Movember for probably over 10 years now, right? I lost a really good friend to suicide when I was younger, when I was about 17. Name's Keegan Hipgrave. We both got selected in the Australian schoolboys team when we were younger. We both like captained Queensland at the same time. And he was just the guy who was like the life of the party, you know, like the most kindest. He had all the respect. The girls loved him. All the boys would like get around him. He was funny as, like he was the guy, he was our captain. And we both got selected in the Aussie schoolboys team. It was the year where you go over to England and France to play you guys over there. 6-week tour, incredible. Regan ended up breaking his ankle in that tournament, so he got selected for the schoolboys, but he couldn't go on. What we later found out was probably a little bit of undiagnosed bipolar, and then so he didn't go away with us. And then on Australia Day that following year, we found out that we'd lost Regan to suicide. And for me, that was the first time that I'd ever had any, I guess, like any kind of awareness around like mental health or people who were struggling with these really severe things. Like it was so foreign to me, and I just couldn't understand it. Like why someone like that, who was just so loved and so cared for by everyone, was really struggling with these things. And obviously there's the guilt that comes with that as well, of not checking in and all these things. And I know Brandon Smith was really good friends with him. A guy called Kurt DeLewis, who actually called me when it first happened. A lot of guys who are in the NRL now knew Regan really well. He was in the Cowboy system. And to be honest, like that was the first time, but I was so young and I didn't know how to process that emotion. I was like 17 at the time. So what I did, I just put it in a box, and I didn't really think about it for a number of years, and I was signed at the Brisbane Broncos as an 18-year-old, straight into a professional NRL system, and I started to notice, and no knock against the Bronx, I think it was just where they're great, like the NRL, like we were at the time, was just like, it was very much just like, get on with it, like as you probably would know, like it was just, and I remember thinking, I was like, oh, it's really interesting, like these guys who I looked up to, who I still look up to, who are still dear friends, but the culture was like, oh, you got your sore, you got a busted thumb, like, let's just get on to it. Oh, stuff's going on at home, let's just get on with it. And maybe it was because I was a bit younger and a bit detached from the main group, but I just thought like, oh, I would love to be the guy like mates could talk to. And so I ended up moving to the Gold Coast Titans when I was 20. And then that was the first time that Movember actually reached out, or the club reached out to Movember or something, because they knew that I was curious about this space and I wanted to do more. And then we just started a really beautiful, like, organic relationship from there, where we do fundraisers. We get the boys auction, like, we'd grow their moustaches throughout the course of Movember. We had Jai Arrow, like, up on stage, like, and someone would, like, randomly auction off to shave off his moustache. And so we did all these things throughout the course of my career. And it probably wasn't until I retired, when it was like 3 or 4 years ago now, and I started to think, okay, well, what does life look like going forward? I want to, I was like, what do I really want to do? Like, what is my why? And I was like, okay, well, I've done all these things. I was like, mental health and psychology and human performance and high performance, like, that's always been there. Movember's always been there. I was like, well, how do I get the tools to be able to help my friends and family? Like, what's the thing? So I went back to uni, I'm doing my postgrad in psychology at the minute. I understood that, like, athletes, as we said, are so influential in the space. I was like, oh, maybe I could talk to my mates, not just in the NRL, but in the Olympic space, but in the AFL and surfing and skating. And, like, maybe they're open to having conversations, and maybe we can help other people encourage conversations. And so that's how the podcast kind of started. And as we were like, I guess, like, advertising the podcast, someone invited me onto their podcast, and they said, ask the exact same question. Why did you get into mental health? Or, like, where did this start from? And I started to think back, and I was like, oh, if I really look back, it's probably when we lost Regan. I was really emotional at the time because I hadn't articulated it openly on air before. And so I got really emotional on this clip, and I didn't think I spoke about it well. So that's why when someone asked me, I really do it justice to talk about Regan, because I want to celebrate him and his life. And the clip went up, and Regan's mum actually reached out. And I actually still get goosebumps talking about it today. It's so weird. But it was, she reached out, and I hadn't spoken to her in 10 years. Like, just to give context, like, I said, I put it in the box. Like, I didn't go to the funeral. I didn't want to think about it. I just didn't know how to deal with it. And she reached out and she said, thanks so much for talking about Regan. Like, thanks for keeping his story alive. And the only thing, I was just like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I should have asked for permission if that was okay to talk about Regan. I didn't even think. And then I ended up apologizing for not coming to the funeral. And she said, Keegs, like, don't ever feel bad about talking about Regan. She's like, my biggest fear as a mum was, like, people would be forgetting about him. So she's like, you talk about him, like, as much as you like. And so when you think about, like, where did this whole thing come from for Movember and getting into this, it always came back to that one little scenario. And then you start thinking about the compounding effect that, like, having good conversations with mates is, like, how important that is, especially when guys are leaving the NRL and might lose that community aspect, ability to be able to get into running or getting to some sort of little group, and having something there, I think is super important. Anyway, that was a long roundabout of saying.
There's a couple of points I'd like to sort of double click on and expand. And look, it's an all too common story, this, especially with young men. The stats are out there, but it seems part of the story with men and them taking their own lives. You often hear well, they were the life and soul of the party.
Yeah,
I don't like, and it just, people struggle to comprehend it, and unfortunately, like, I lost a good old friend to suicide. That we believe it was suicide. Bryn Hargreaves used to play with him.
Really sorry.
And he was probably, like, undiagnosed bipolar. But again, like, life and soul. He'd bring the guitar, he'd always tell the jokes, loved the crack. And we knew there was the darker side to him. But a little bit of work I'm actually doing with my psychologist at the moment now. And the people, like, and it's actually happened since I came out and did the podcast where I spoke about some of the recent issues I had, and they're like, mate, you've got everything, you've got it all. Like, you've got nothing to be down about. And I know I don't, like, on the outside looking in. But do you think that there's maybe those people that are super up and buzzing and exciting and great to be around?
Yeah.
When you're up, your fragility to negativity and negative news cycles or bad things happening to you, is you're more susceptible to crash, because if you're one of those people that, you know, generally emotionally stable, or just one of the guys that's around and you don't really put themselves too much out there. But those people that are so up that any negativity that happens, that the crash is more significant, the fall is more significant, because you're coming off a higher base, if that makes sense. It's something I'm trying to figure out with my psychologist now about how, well, okay, you don't want to stop being up or being doing what you're doing, but you've just got to you got to manage the drop so it doesn't send you into like it's not hyper arousal. I can't remember the phrase, but it's basically like where I completely shut down and spiral into these negative thought patterns around, well, I can't make anyone. Well, it's about controlling what I can control. Like I can't control other people's negativity or the situation that they're in. I can just control what I'm doing, and he's given me some tools to help me get there. But I just think it's an all too common story to see these people that are perceived by their friendship group or their peer group as being so high and the life and soul, and can't imagine it that they seem to take that route. I
can probably talk to this a little bit. There's actually a heap of literature around this. So there's a concept called like the happiness baseline. So essentially, if you look at it, like we all sit on a baseline and every individual is different. Some people are higher, some people are lower. So when something really good in our life happens, we make a debut, we sign a contract, we get a partner, we have kids, you know, we have buy our first house, like our happiness shoots up. We're super aroused. We're very happy. This is awesome. But then gradually with time, as it all happens, you know, we just resort back to our baseline, which is just how we're biologically made up. That is just the standard. But then the opposite is also true. So when we might not get picked in the footy team, or we get to have a hard conversation with a boss, or we lose our job, or we lose someone we really love, or when we're really stressed out with work, we have these really trigger moments that can actually send us down way past our baseline. Excuse me. But having the awareness that with time, we actually gradually get back to baseline. And this is outside any type of disorders, clinical depression, anxiety. That is for clinical psychologists, which I recommend to talk to if that is you. But for the average Joe, that happiness baseline is an incredible concept to be able to having that awareness that when things are going really hard and you're in the thick of it, that with time you will actually come back. And how do we come back quicker than usual? You said it. Having those tools, and like every individual is different. Like for me, I love going for a surf. I love being in the water. I love being out in nature, trail running, being around mates, dude. Like having a barbecue with your mates, man. That's me. Like if you these are my little tools that I have. So recently, these last 6 weeks have been gnarly. Like they've been really stressful. And it wasn't until I had like a camping trip with like some really good friends and my partner and their partners where I was just like, it kind of got me back and clicked me out of it. I was like, man, like it's actually not that bad. Like I'm actually grateful to be tired doing the things that I love. You know what I mean? So it just took this one little thing to be able to get back to that baseline. And to be honest, from there, I've been really good. So it is about having that awareness and knowing what tools are good for you, right?
Well, one of the things I was speaking with a friend about as well, and when people are looking at you and comparing you, saying, well, you're down over that, or you're stressed over that. I think one thing that can really educate the public is it's not a competition because we're all, you know, wired differently, and we're all susceptible, and there's things beneath the surface that maybe we don't know about, or there's, you know, things that have happened in our upbringing, or whatever it may be, or you know, maybe it just affects you, and there's no justification. There's all and even people tell themselves that story about, well, that person's got it way worse than me, so I can't complain. But like, it's not a competition for people to compare. It's like who deserves the help more, and maybe that's why people don't feel like they should ask for help, because it's like, well, you know, this person's suffering through. We so many people that get that health diagnosis, that physical health diagnosis. You're like, well, they've just been diagnosed with this. Like, I can't complain, but you can't. It's not complaining. It's getting the help.
It's like that cliche of like the hardest thing you've gone through is the hardest thing you've gone through.
Yes.
Whether you're a 16-year-old kid and having your first breakup, or really gnarly, like losing a loved one, right? Like it is the hardest thing that you've gone through, right? It's all part of it, and it's never not going to be easy, right? Like, and I think having that awareness is super important.
One of the things you mentioned about is athletes, and I've been doing a lot of thinking about this, and I think there's a disproportionate amount of athletes would have a mental health issue compared to non-professional athletes. Now, part of that maybe being environmental, but part of that, I think maybe there's something about those disorders that can send you into the mindset to do something different. And then I think sometimes you get that cocktail of environment of, elite performance, which and we are under tremendous amounts of pressure, and that rubs off on us. But you think that the sport, whose responsibility is it to see these people through and to navigate this? Okay, you most likely got a mental health issue because you are an athlete, because that's what it takes. And then we're going to throw you into this highly competitive environment where it's a bit sink or swim, and you're going to face hardship and spit out the other end. It's like, it's a bit of a recipe for disaster at times. And even when we think about some of the negative news stories around ex-athletes that get caught up in different bits and pieces, for me, I'm never surprised. I'm like, all right, that sort of makes sense. But I guess the public perception rather can be very negative towards the actions of the former athlete.
Well, if you look at the character or the type of person that is playing professional sport, whether it's NRL or in the Olympic space or AFL, probably their character traits probably is a lot around being hyper fixated on a task, or having a disposition of excellence or high performance, and being almost getting stuck on that.
Perfectionism.
Perfection. I know Steve Bicknell is one of the NRL psychologists. He does a lot in the ADHD space and also trauma space, but he's talks really well about the ADHD space. And I'm not going to speak to it from his point of view because he does it so well. But he said the type of person, especially in the NRL, there would be so many people with ADHD, undiagnosed ADHD, because that's just the type of person who would go on and have the attributes to be able to perform at such a high level. Like, they're so closely correlated. And so when you look at that, of course, they're obviously channeling that into something that's really great. But then when you stop playing and you don't have something to channel into, it's like, well, what am I going to do? Like, where do I put my focus now? And I think that's why so many people struggle. You mentioned, whose responsibility is it? Man, it's like the hardest question to ask. Like my first thought is like, it's got to be on ourselves, right? Like, it is up to us how we want to choose to react to things. Like, for me, like, medically retired at 24. Like, the neurologist said, mate, it's probably a good recommendation that you should finish up. And to be honest, dude, like, I could have kicked stones for, 12, 18 months, a couple years. Like, but kicking stones isn't going to help me go forward. It's not going to help my future family. It's not going to help my career. It's definitely not going to help my mental health if I get on the piss and do all that stuff. So I think I was really lucky where I could catch myself and be like, okay, well, if I can't play in the NRL, I can't do what I really love, well, what can I be doing? Like, what are the things that are actually really going to help me go forward? And I understand that I'm fortunate enough that I found something that I really love to do. But I think the onus has to be on ourselves and almost taking a little bit of accountability. Like, when you're in the video session and when you're playing great, I imagine you're probably pretty quick to take accountability if you fucked up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Do whatever you want.
But I was just like, it's like if you made a mistake, like, you're pretty quick to take accountability for it. same goes with life. Like if you're in the thick of it and you have to have the awareness, like if you do have a disposition of something, or if you do think you might be floating in the space of ADHD or OCD or any of these types of disorders, like get yourself checked out, like talk to people who are in that space, because there is so much literature, there's so much evidence, and there's so many people who are willing to help people, which I think is awesome.
I think one of the key messages for people that are maybe feeling like that is act now, because I've put my like mental health to the side, and it did me no favors. And I guess it's not as time sensitive of, oh, I'm having a heart attack, I need to get to the hospital, but maybe we should treat it that way. The quicker the better. Like it, and maybe it's a man thing and a high performance thing around not showing your hurt. And look, I get that. I really do. Like I tell this story about my grandfather that I never met before whenever I do and speak about mental health. So it's the tale of the two grandfathers. My dad's dad, him and his wife, my grandma, like council estate, which is basically was the same as housing commission. Cared so, but we'd go and visit them, and he wouldn't let us on his lawn because he cared about like it was his garden that he'd been given by the government, and he showed me the value in treating things that are given to you. And it's something that I still need to pick up on, but I was like, wow. You think back, like, Granddad really cared, when really, like, it was a government house, it wasn't his. And taught me so many lessons. And then in the end, as they were aging, he had a goal in life. And when I first tell the story, people laugh. It was to outlive my grandma. But it wasn't a competition. he wasn't competing with grandma. She struggled by herself. And he was like, I can't leave her. I can't go first and let her struggle through it. Like, I'm not going to let her be the one that's alone. They've been together, like, this is like late into the 90s. They've been together for so long. He'd been away in World War II. So I learned so much about that reason to live. And then flip to the other side. My mum's mum and nan, I knew her growing up. She's still alive to this day. But I never met my granddad on that side. And then asking mum as I go, like, what happened to Granddad? Like, why he died, he passed away. And you get a bit older and you ask the questions about what, how and why. Oh, he died of a heart attack. He was only like early 50s. And I'm like, it was in the 80s. I'm thinking, like, did they just not have the medical ability to bring him back? Because people have heart attacks all the time and survive. And she was like, oh, no. That's not the reason why. And then she later went on to tell me that his dying words to my nan were, don't you dare ring an ambulance. That's what he said when he was having a heart attack. And like, he was so like adamant, he didn't want to show that he was hurt, and he didn't want the neighbours to see this ambulance turn up. He was like, I'm fine. He passed away, and instead of leaving in an ambulance, he leaves in a body bag. And you're like, what's that? And I never got to meet him, and it was obviously still traumatizing this day to my mum, my auntie, my uncle, like my nan never really got, like, these actions of men sometimes that's like the ultimate price, and the time sensitive nature of, you need to get help now. Who cares what people think? Like, get the help, because for people out there that are maybe at that age, there's a grandkid that you don't know about yet, that you might just pass on some words of wisdom to, that might just affect them a little bit. And I don't know, I just think you when people are struggling, they don't know what's around the future, and things change in a day. And a couple of decades later, that my granddad had me to contend with. Like, had he have still been there? And I just think it's an example of of what can happen by not getting the help that you deserve and you earned. Like, he went to war as well and he fought for his country. He deserved it. People out there, like, they've earned this help. They deserve it. They've paid their taxes. Birthright of being here in Australia. Get the help that you deserve.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, man. It's a really, really beautiful story. And I think the first thing that comes to mind is just like this like analogy someone said to me. It's just like when you're in the thick of it and when you're in a really hard place, you're kind of in like almost like a tunnel, like a really dark tunnel. And you got two options. Like, you can either pull up a seat and sit in the tunnel and sit there and ruminate on it, or you can take some steps to the light, which is just a little bit further. And it's all about taking those first couple steps, which could be it could be about reaching out. It could be around doing something that's positive for yourself. And it's tricky. Like, I know, like, mental health has become almost like a bit of a buzzword, and I think people attach mental health to like almost the clinical side, right? The anxiety, depression, suicidal ideations, like this really negative stuff. But mental health is the whole spectrum.
Yeah. Can I just add to that? That, you know, when I'm a little bit older than you, but when I was growing up and in and around my friendship group, like, you refer to someone as a nutter. Or you'd think of mental health as being like somebody that gets sectioned, like taken away. They can't go to they're a danger to society. People with mental health issues when I was growing up were a danger to society. And it's like, we need to forcibly lock them up, put them in a straitjacket. That was my image of mental health growing up. And obviously it's changed now that it's not that. It is a broader spectrum than
the whole
somebody
spectrum.
needing sectioning.
Yeah, man. It's like, it's exactly what you said. Like, that is obviously, that's so far and that's so extreme. Like, being able to lock someone up for having a type of condition and disorder, right? That is very well treatable now, right? And when you think about it, having like attributing that stigma or that, I guess, like that stereotype with someone.
That's it, the stereotype.
It's very much like negative. And so I think trying to shift that, where it's like, that mental health is actually the whole life. It's actually almost like having balance in our life as well. It's the positive psychology effect of it, right? Like, think of it as, you know, you've got neutral. Like, most people want to be neutral, and -10 is almost like your clinical disorders like anxiety, depression, ODS, like all the really gnarly stuff. And clinical psychology is great for taking someone from, you know, a -7, -8, -9 back to neutral. And sometimes being neutral is a win for those types of people. But then you've also got the other side of it, to where it's like, okay, we're a +3, a +4. How do I be the very best version of myself? Like, how do I get to being a +8, +9, +10? And having that awareness that you're somewhere on that spectrum, but we can always get better. We can always take those steps. And I think having conversations with people who we look up to, like yourself, people on different types of podcasts, like having conversations with them that normalizes the stigma and it takes it out of it. And you can kind of look for little golden nuggets where you can be like, oh, I can attach that to my own life. That was the whole reason we started the podcast, to be honest, was I never thought I was going to be doing media when I was playing footy. That was the last thing I was going to be thinking of doing. But then I realized that athletes are so influential and these professionals are really influential. If we can be seen talking about our own vulnerabilities and struggles, then it makes it okay for the rest of us. And we can take those little things away from us. Once I realized that, I was like, that's it. And that's what I want to be doing.
I think as well, you're just sort of thinking out loud around like normalizing things. Like, for my joints, I take some omega-3 fatty acids. Like, there's a blend, and I'm not going to mention the brand that I use, but I do. And I take turmeric as well on a daily basis. Like, bang, there we go. That helps my joints. Well, and there's things that I do. Maybe now it is conscious around. It's from mental health. Yeah, dude. Like, and it can be inspiring for people. And again, it should just be normal. And it's okay. Yeah. That, if I've got bad joints and I take these things, who cares? No one, because is it making you better? Yes. Is there any negative consequences to it? Don't think so. Yeah. So it's the same with mental health. Like, I've sort of got a bit of a phrase that if you've got a problem with what I'm doing to fix my mental health, take a ticket, get in line and kiss my ass. Like, I just don't care, mate.
Yeah.
The problem's with you. If you're going to say, if you're going to compare, the competition, well, you don't, there's nothing wrong with you, mate. You've got everything you need. It's like, mate, I don't care. Yeah. Oh, you need therapy. You got a tough eye. I don't care.
Yeah.
Good luck to you, mate.
Yeah,
you do you.
Yeah, you don't typically want to hang around those sorts of people anyway, to be honest. Like, I feel like those people very much have just like float away. Like, they're not the type of people that are going to be around for a long time anyway, So.
But there's maybe people out there that are in groups of people, or you certainly can't pick your family, that would maybe talk about it. Some of the oldest, younger, it's, there's an age range there where people would be, still young people that would be like, oh, mate, come on, nothing wrong with you. When people are young, hey, they know everything, but they know nothing. I thought I knew everything.
You and me both,
I thought, maybe when I think back, it's like, mental health, mate, come on, what could possibly be wrong? Just go and play footy. But it is, and there's people in those situations that they maybe can't escape. But I think it's on you to ignore them, get the help, and
the family one's a tricky one because we obviously don't pick our family, right? But a lot of the time we love them and we want the best for them. The friends one is, I think, can be a lot more straighter and a lot more blunter as well, right? Like, you want to grow with people, right? You want to be around the people who have probably similar values to you. I remember we did a podcast with a guy called Mac Horton. He was an Olympic swimmer. He was the guy that called out one of the Japanese or Chinese guys for being a drug cheat. I remember, back in I think it was Rio, maybe? Rio Olympics. And he had the semi-final in the morning and the guy was splashing him, and Mac pretty much just came out and said, I don't have time for a drug cheat. And then between that time of like the semi-final and what do you call it, the grand final? Just the final, the final swim. He was getting so much like criticism from the media, and it blown up out of proportion. And he was starting to think, like, did I do the right thing? Like, should I have not have done that? And what he did was pretty much just lent on his friends and family, which essentially have the exact same values as him. He's like, no, I'm confident. Like, I actually don't have time for people who want to break the rules. And it just came back to the people that were around him. He's like, okay, I'm happy to move on with that decision. And then ends up like winning it. You know what I mean? And so the conversation was a lot around like dealing with pressure and stuff like that. But it kind of ties into having the right people around. So like, if there are people that are in certain circles or in life, or you might not be vibing with it, or you might just want to make a change from doing the same old things that you've been doing forever, like, you can make those steps. Like, it is just a matter about taking the right steps forward, and maybe it's about distancing yourself. Like, as hard as shit as it is, it's up to you.
I think as well, there's a couple of points I'd like to make. That the first step is often the most difficult, but it's also the most rewarding and the most liberating. Like, I can remember going to see the doctor at I wasn't playing at the Dragons anymore, but came back to Australia. Dr. Stefan Eriksson like admitted I needed to get some help. And it was tough, but going there, and then once I came out of that first meeting, I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
And all he did was help me out, finding a psychologist, and gave me some medication to try. I was like,
and you felt better?
Felt better.
Yeah,
and even like the medication, like, maybe we over-medicate, under-medicate. I don't know what it is, but so what? Yeah. It makes me feel better.
Yeah.
With the no real negative side effects as it currently stands. Some do, but I'm like, well, feel better now.
How's everything going now? Because from the outside looking in, it looks so cool. Like, you got like this podcast, which is awesome. You're doing a heap in the media space. Like, how's everything traveling now? Because from the outside looking in, it looks awesome.
Like, work-wise, everything's great.
Yeah.
Everything's great.
So cool.
Happy family at home, but I still have my struggles with hyperarousal and probably a bit of that ADHD, like the stimulation, the wanting to do everything, like needing to fill days, not very good, just sitting doing nothing, and the exercise is great for that, but it may have gone too far where I get that anxious itch if I'm on holiday, like I say, and just if there's not a plan in place, well, that means I can't plan my run either. But things are being managed now. Off season is always a strange time for me because work. I have time off, but I'm not good with time. I've never been programmed to be okay doing nothing. And again, that comes back to maybe the building of an athlete, those traits that served me well, and those things that were instilled in me at a young age of always working, more is more, never show your hair on a foot. You feel like, those things that are instilled in me, maybe they're starting to, maybe when they helped, now they're hindering. So I'm working on that, but constantly working, and I've got no shame in talking about that and bringing people along on the journey to fundamentally help other people. Yeah,
I love that you're really open about it. I think it's really cool.
I know. I guess when it all first happened, it was, no one needs to know. Like it's a need to know basis only.
Yeah, whose business is it?
I
fell into that as well.
And you know what? I respect people that do keep it to themselves, or they want to keep it private. And I'm usually quite a private person, but it was I guess the catalyst for it was, I don't know if it just came up organically, and I was like, well, I'm not going to lie about it. And then there was another opportunity. I spoke at a few events, and it seemed to be received really well about what I sort of spoke with Charlie and said, like, look, I think I'd like to broaden this out because, you're in a room of 100 or 150 people and they'll like leave. I spoke about that story about my grandfather and what's been going on with me, and a few people came up and very, taken aback, and you could see the cogs spinning, and I thought, well, I'll open it up, but it seems to have been received well.
I feel like when you're like open and vulnerable in these spaces, there's probably so many other people who are in the exact same position, and they might not know how to articulate it, or they feel like they're really alone and just isolated, and so when they can feel or hear you talk about it, like, oh, far out, man, like that's me. Like you almost, it's almost like you're speaking to them, right? So which is probably why they came up to you and felt like the need to express appreciation. And
post podcast of me speaking about a few things, like I've had that feedback is, it feels like you were talking to me. That felt like that's how I feel.
Yeah, dude.
And if there's other people feeling like that, then I was, and I still am to an extent, and I'm still working on it. It's a work in progress, but there's certain taps that have been turned off in my brain, some that have been turned on, and then I've got practical take-home things like to catch myself and, continue to work and have these different tools to almost break through, and the lows aren't as low for as long. It works. Like fundamentally, it works.
And that's why it's so cool that you get to literally navigate these conversations via a podcast, via a long form platform.
Yes.
Dude, I'm the exact same. It's a whole big part of like starting a podcast, because you get to talk to who you want to talk to.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can go in and you talk to whoever you want. You're like, okay, I'm writing notes, taking notes down, and man, it's like it is such an expanding exercise. I think that's why I love it.
Before we go into your career, speaking about your podcast and the different guests that you've had on, I guess who'd be the most challenging? Have you met like a challenging guest where you're like, oh, this is going to be a tough one to navigate, or it's
the ones who are friends? Well, to be honest, like most of the people who have come on have been friends. Like as you probably know. It is really hard to see someone who you really care about like open up and get quite emotional. Like I'm a very like emotional person. Like I could speak about that pretty openly. Like I have a high care factor for people who I love and people who are in my life. So when I see them in a really bad spot, I kind of take that on and I feel that. So that's probably the hardest bit. there's been a few guests that like just the stories are incredible. Like I feel like I couldn't even tell them on the podcast because they are just so, it's like a movie. It's like a book that they would think about like the most gnarliest things that have happened and they've happened to them. Morgan Mitchell, Olympic sprinter, was one of them, largely around domestic violence with her father. That was a really, really hard one to navigate. I cared deeply for Morgan. She's a really incredible person. She just had twins. But the beautiful thing is like she talked really openly about the struggles that she went through with the domestic violence with her remote dad, but then also how she navigated out of it. So it was also really beautiful to see how she operates life now. Courtney Ugle, an AFL player from Melbourne, similar setup, lost her dad and her mum to violence. And has been through her own struggles as well. Again, like, and she's spoken about it quite often now, so she can speak to it, but it can be challenging to navigate the conversations as well, especially when you like really care about them. But what I found is that the very best podcasts and the very best conversations that we have outside of the ones that we learn from, more the storytelling aspect, as you mentioned, the best ones are the ones who are open, who are vulnerable, who can have these types of conversations, encourages us, but it also gives us the tools and tips and strategies that they use to actually get out of those really gnarly situations. It's exactly what we were just talking about around like, what can we take away? Like, what are those little homework things that we can take into our own life? Yeah. They're kind of the best ones that I love to do.
Have you had like I guess a pinch yourself moment where you sat across from somebody and you're like, oh my goodness me, I'm talking to this person?
To be honest, like that stuff doesn't really bother me, to be honest, like in the most respectful way.
You're just comfortable.
We've had the most amazing people on the podcast, right? With like, obviously like the footy players that we knock around with, like Nathan Cleary, even over in like the AFL space with Braden Maynard and Dyson Heppel and Isaac Quaynor, even the Olympic space, like Ariane Titmus, Jess Fox, like really incredible athletes, but no one really like, I'm never like, oh God, like fangirl. Like I never really, I do fangirl about the surfers because I'm like surfing background. So I actually really like talking to the surfers. But my favorite ever episode was Mary Fowler's episode. We got Mary on for her first ever podcast ever.
Wow.
And that was kind of put us on the map a little bit in the sense of like, we just did Nathan Cleary's podcast and he talked about fear of other people's opinion, FOPO, whatever. And so Mary was on the Gold Coast. We just did the podcast with Nathan. And I was like, hey, if you're ever interested in coming on, like let me know. She's like, yep, I'd love to. We'll figure it out later. And then we went over to London. Oh no, I think we're in Manchester, maybe last year or the year before. And same thing, I reached out, I was like, hey, we're going to be in Manchester if you're around, would love to do it. She's like, yeah, amazing. We had these awesome conversations around what we were going to talk about and like identity with football and how she's interested in all these other things. And then we're in Manchester. We had a whole heap of other podcasts lined up. And a week before, Mary calls me, she's like, hey, Keys, like, so you know, just on my ACL, literally yesterday, I'm not going to be able to do the podcast because I was like trying to lock in the time for, I was like, what's going on? She's like, won't be able to do it. And I was like, obviously a bit bummed because she would have been an awesome guest. And I said, look, it's fine. Like, don't stress at all. Like I'm of the opinion, like if it doesn't work out, it'll happen down the track. Like things just work out the way it's supposed to work out. And I was like, look, that's fine. If you don't want to do it, we don't have to do it. But I think it would be really beautiful to see where your headspace is at straight out of the back of doing your ACL. And she's like, she said, leave it with me. So she sat on it, she brewed on it, and then she's like, fuck it, count me in, I'm in. It's like whatever comes out of it, comes out of it. And then we were in there for like 2 hours just talking about life and talking about how she overcame this injury and how like she was able to positively reframe from this really gnarly thing, like the biggest injury that she's ever had, into something that was really beautiful because it allowed her to focus on other aspects of her life that she wouldn't have had time to. She had this like, obviously just announced a book that she just came out. I think that was in the works. She had this mentoring thing that she wanted to do with younger girls and she hadn't had time to allocate to that, but now she did. So I think overall, like, and it was the ability of like flying over to Manchester. We had a team with us and it was like a really beautiful podcast. Like it was just a great conversation. And like Today's Show picked it up, all the news picked it up. Like it just kind of put us on the map. And to be honest, like I was telling you before when we got on, like we just built our studio, like our home base studio in the Gold Coast, and it's beautiful. And it was the backdrop is based off the Mary Fowler episode, which is really cool.
How cool!
Yeah, so that was one of the fun ones.
So like just to explain to the audience that, you know, coming out of the NRL, you didn't really know what to do. This media thing just sort of happens. Podcast, and it's now become your life.
Yeah, dude. Well, mate, like I said, even when they call you up for media, like after training, I never wanted to do it. Like just couldn't be bothered. Like I was like, I'm here to play footy. I'm not here to talk to the media, which is like obviously just a young dumb thing to say. But I think like I was more curious about the psychology aspect of it and the high performance and human makeup. To be honest, I'm more focused on that. And the podcast was just an avenue of us being able to, I guess, like highlight stories and promote positive mental health. That was pretty much the only thing. And then when you look back to your first podcast, it's bad. Like it is the worst thing you've ever done. And now
cringe.
Yeah, cringe. And so I started the podcast. I did a number of years with the RLPA in the player transition space, which I really loved. Actually, I had the most incredible time there.
I'm really pleased to see they're putting more and more resources into that.
Incredible, dude. Incredible. And so I really wanted to balance both of them, like, because I love the ability to be able to make genuine impacts with helping past players, things that I really cared about. A lot of my mates were transitioning out, but I really love the podcast as well. And I was like, I don't know how to balance the two. I was having to say no to other outside opportunities with the podcast, so like go hang out with Red Bull and all these teams. And I was like, I wanted to fly around, do more on the global level, and I was just couldn't do that. So I just had to make the choice. And I was like, well, I wonder what the podcast would look like if I put 100% of my time into it. And so I jumped into it probably like 5 or 6 months ago as like a full-time job, which is still a pinch me moment. Like that, like in what world can you like be having conversations with cool crew as part of your job?
So on your landing card, when you come back and it says occupation.
Oh yeah, dude.
Do you put podcast?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm definitely not an athlete anymore.
Well, mate, you do, don't you?
What do you do? Media?
I just put NA.
I just go media now.
Media?
Media,
mate,
yeah.
I reckon we need to, like, part of our identity and, like, being in denial. You know, actually, I'm going to Vegas in a couple of weeks for the NRL.
Sick.
When I fly back, I'm just going to put it on. I'm going to own it.
They'll pull you aside and like, what are you doing, bro?
Yeah. Podcaster. Charlie's on the campaign trail for me to put journalist, but I'm not a journalist.
Yeah.
Podcaster. I'm proud of.
Yeah, man. I think it's cool. Even when people are like, oh, you're a content creator. I was like, oh, I don't know if that's that old school like cringe thing in me, and I'm like, oh, I don't think I am, but I guess at a certain level, I think we kind of are, I guess.
But well, even for me, it's like whatever you want to label me, whatever it's not something I control.
Yeah.
I always like you're different things to different people, and we talk about like identity and labels. And for some people, I'm that ex-NRL player.
Yeah.
You know, for some people, I'm that podcaster. For some people, I'm that person that you see on TV or hear on radio.
Yeah.
For some people, I'm my daughter's dad.
Yeah.
For some people, I'm my wife's partner, whatever it may be. But I've told this story before. I was away in Hamilton Island, and this kid and his dad come, and the dad's like, "Oh, my son wants to ask you something." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure." I'm thinking it's about NRL. He goes, "Are you that guy that's always running around Gaimea?" I'm like.
So good, bro.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
And the dad goes, I know you used to play a bit of footy, but he knows you as that guy that's always running around going, I'm like, well, I guess I am, mate. Yeah, to you. Like, I'm whoever you want to be. Like, people put you in these, I guess they project things. And for some people, I'm, my nieces and nephew's uncle. Oh, that's Darcy's uncle or whatever it may be, but it's people have labels for you with a podcaster. I'm just me. I'm different things to different people, and I can't control how they see or what they see me as.
But don't you think like the most impressive people, the people that you want to talk to the most, have like so many different layers to them as well? Like I look at some of the people that I look up to incredibly. Like there's a guy called Jeff Wilson. He's like one of the best adventurers in Australia, potentially throw him out there for potentially the world. He lives just around the corner from me in Currumbin on the Gold Coast, and he's like the most incredible vet, most incredible businessman. He's crossed more of Antarctica than anybody else in the world on skis.
Wow.
He's done he's had the most incredible stories of like crossing the Sahara, and like he's just a guy, like he's got this presence about, but he's got so many different layers to him. He's got an incredible partner. His relationship with him and his partner is something that like I try and aspire to as well. And I look at it, I'm like, so interesting, so many layers. Like you could talk to these people for hours, you know?
One of the layers about you is arguably how you exited the game. At the age of 24, Parramatta finals game, and it ends in disaster for you. At what stage did you know? Did you have to go to the neurologist to get that medical rubber stamp? I need someone else to tell me, or did you know within yourself that like, hey, this is different?
Well, I had 12 months off probably 2 years earlier when I was at the Titans in 2019. So already had a heap of concussions. Round 26 against the Penrith Panthers, defending our try line, had to jam on Tavita Pangai because they hit him short. Came off second best, as I probably would against Tavita, being a big guy, and just had the whiplash, head hit the back of the ground, completely out. Don't remember probably anything of that game, to be honest. In that moment, after the game, sitting in the sheds, headache, brain, like head throbbing, I probably didn't think that was going to be my last game of footy. Probably thought that, okay, we'll just see what happens. We've got semi-finals next week. Obviously not going to play that because, you get knocked out. You can't come back the week after. But I was
11-day stand down at that stage.
Yeah, I can't quite remember. No, I remember thinking it would be awesome to get back for the next semi-final, I think, or the grand final if we make it. Anyway, we got knocked out the next week. So it was probably a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
But throughout that week, doing the return to run protocol, the 10-100s on the field, couldn't run 100 meters without sleeping all afternoon.
Wow.
Yeah. It was my brain was just still recovering, and it was obviously a big head knock. And then we were in COVID at the time, so we were on the Gold Coast, we were in the hub. It finished up, everyone just goes out on holidays, and everyone's just done. And so I was just by myself, and for the next 6 weeks, dude, I just had a headache for that whole time. And I knew something was wrong. I'd had these concussions before. I knew that my emotional irritability was just going up and down. There was one time I was at my granddad's. I was at my granddad's birthday. I was at my grandmother's birthday, and I remember just thinking, I was just frustrated and angry, and he wasn't doing that great, and I remember thinking, I'm just gonna get out of here and just go, and then I left, and I was just sitting there in the car thinking you probably don't have that many more times with him. What are you doing? Why are you in such a rush? Why are you so angry? Kind of broke down in the car a little bit. And I remember thinking, I should probably reach out to the club doctor just to give him a heads up of where I'm at. It's called the doc. Doc got me in touch with Chris Levi, who had done all my testing prior in 2019. And then you go through, as you know, the whole half day of testing, the literacy testing, the numeracy testing, reaction time, problem solving, all these things. At the end of it, he goes away, and we had pretty honest conversations. And I went into that saying, I'm not going to lie about where I'm at. I'm not going to lie about having a headache for the last couple months. I'm not going to lie about my irritability. And he called me probably a week later. I remember being in the pool at the time. And he's like, Keegs, just after going through your results and everything. So you've got a lot going on outside of footy. He's you're curious about all these things. I was doing an MBA at the time.
Oh wow!
Yeah. I was really interested. I was interested in this in this space. Not that impressive. I didn't finish it. So, but
don't edit that out, Charlie.
Yeah. But he's just he's mate, you got a lot going on for you outside, and just you're getting close to having 10 big concussions, which I knew I had way more than 10 over the years. He's my recommendation for you is that you should medically retire. in that moment, I had two kind of options. I was like, do I just like lie and say, no, I'm good. Like, I'm sweet. Like, headaches are gone. Like, my emotions are intact. That was one option. Then the other option was like, no, I understand what you're saying. In my head, I love rugby league. Like, I appreciate everything that it's done for me. But dude, I want to be good when I'm, in 20 years time, 30 years time. I want to be a good dad. I want to be a good granddad. Like, I want to be fit and have all these things. And for me, playing footy for another couple years and earning a couple extra $100,000 like that, for me at that time, it didn't interest me. Like, and to be honest, I lent on my family. I lent on my mum and dad really well. And I had really honest conversations with them. And I took that on and I said, okay, well, I agree with you. Like, what happens now? Like, what's the next steps? And
it's all right agreeing, but you're right. What do you mean? Like, where now? There's not a book on how to medically retire at 24.
I had no idea. And I made the decision, and there was obviously like a mourning period that comes with that, maybe a week or 2 weeks. So I remember being like really upset. Maybe my brain was still recovering. I remember crying. I remember calling Brad Arthur, like straight, like probably maybe like a day after that conversation. And I told Brad, I was like, mate, spoke to the neuro, recommends that I should medically retire. And I agree with him. And he was so good, man. Like, he's like, Keegs, like, we love football. Like, football is awesome. But it's like, you got to look after your health. You got to look after yourself. You got to look after, like, and like, you got to be there for like your friends and your family and majority. Like, there are more important things than rugby league. And that was kind of just the confirmation that I needed. And then it comes with that transition, like a couple years out and trying to figure that out. But in that moment, I think the best thing that I did was I was able to take this really hard thing that had happened to me, probably like one of the hardest things at the time. And I was able to redirect that and I guess like positively redirect that into like, okay, well, now I'm 24. I get to start my professional career a little bit earlier. Like, I can start working, and I'm grateful because like I look at a lot of guys who come out a bit later with respectfully not a whole heap. But now I've started and I'm 29 now, and we get to work for myself and have created this little thing that I'm actually really proud of. To be honest, more proud of this podcast and what I'm doing now than any footy game that I've ever played. I love what I do now, and I was like, if that didn't happen to me, I wouldn't be here what I'm doing. And I think in that moment, I was really good at being able to redirect it. Don't get me wrong. Came with like a lot of times where I was up at 1 o'clock in the morning and I was like, I just need to go for a run. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. Like, I'm stressed out financially. I'm stressed out with like relationships and all these things that were happening at the time. So there were moments of struggle. Don't get me wrong.
And you leave that bubble that you've been in for so long and similar people. And you know what's next. You know that it's the off season. I get to chill, surf, have beers, and then come November 1, I'll be back at it. And come first weekend of Feb, it'll be trials.
100%. But that's what I tell all the guys when I was catching up with them when I was in the RLPA was like, like it can be hard. Like, finishing up can be hard. But there can be so much good that comes with it as well. Like, you get to decide what you want to do. Like, it's your decision. Like, and I guess that is scary. Like, that can be scary. But you can do whatever you want. There are no rules. Like, if you wanted to start a podcast or if you wanted to like start your own business or do your own thing, like, you're not restricted by the bubble of professional sport anymore. And like, it's cool, man. It can be really empowering, I think.
One of the coolest things I got is not being told what to do anymore.
Yeah, dude.
And I used to do a spin class at this gym, and I'd always leave 5 minutes early, because I could. And the lady that run it was like, "What's up?" I was like, "Look, I'm just letting you know. Like, it's not personal. It's just I'm not here playing for a contract. I'm not going to get in trouble for leaving.
Nice,
it's like,
isn't it?
just got that power back.
It's nice.
I could just leave
when
I want.
Nice.
But it's I like how you framed that, and it takes a lot for a young man to privilege the future over the present, because we do live in the now, and especially young athletes, that it's everything. I know at certain times I was willing to go, I'm not really, whatever will be in the future, and I'm not going to plead ignorance. I'll take that because I want to just keep playing or play at a time when I knew deep down I shouldn't, and
Yeah.
I'll maybe pay the consequences or take the consequences, pay the price a bit later. But that's incredible to have that that level of calmness and
We can't change the
rational
past.
thinking. No, but to have that thinking at such a young age, when I know how much football means to everyone that plays in the NRL.
But it's like we can't change the past. We can't change all of that stuff. But like, what are all the things that we can be doing? Get curious on what you want to do, figure it out, and go for it, and then go all in on it, which is cool.
Yeah. Is that the biggest sliding doors moment? Would you say of your life? When you think about say let's play a little thought experiment.
Yeah.
Tavita Pangai Jr. doesn't go to Penrith, which was a strange signing at the time.
Yeah.
It's a different player.
Yeah.
And maybe you make that tackle on, maybe it's, I don't know, Campbell Gillard at the time at Penrith and or whoever, and it's fine, and you play on, and where do you think you think you'd still be playing now?
I think I'd still be playing. Yeah, I'm probably 29 now. I'd probably be getting close to the Super League and wanting to spend a bit of time over there and do a bit of time over there. Yeah, I reckon if I didn't do that, I would be still playing for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. It's all unless I had that epiphany or that thought that there was other things out there except for footy. But yeah, it was the best sliding door moment that ever happened to me. Very grateful for you, Tavita, and he's a really good friend as well. Very grateful for you, brother.
Do you talk about that when you speak to people about mental health and how, like situational awareness, because and the moment isn't everything. Like, don't act on emotion, because I think we can, this negative event happens, but to hear you articulate yourself and how you processed it, and like, to you to frame it as, well, I get to start something a bit earlier. Like, I sort of jumped out of my seat and was like, oh yeah, you do. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. It's an amazing attitude.
Positive reframing is a concept that I am definitely researching more of. I did a subject at uni called research. It's like research and methods. It was kind of like we get to put a proposal into something that we want to research, and I could do a full qualitative analysis on like my whole podcast, which is essentially like ripping out parts of episodes where someone might have struggled and see like what tools that they use to be able to positively reframe their negative experience. And it is a hard thing to do. Like the literature mentions that it is a hard thing to do, but I think like potentially down the track there might be something cool around doing a PhD or something around that. And it's cool because like I own the IP of the podcast, so I can do all this. It is obviously public knowledge, so people could probably riff it as well. But I was like, that whole concept of positive reframing is so interesting for me. And now I'm like, okay, well maybe there's like a book in there, or maybe there's like some sort of learning in there. But yeah, keen to flesh that out a little bit more.
Well, between your training for all these marathons, your podcast and your education, I want to let you go. You've got a lot on your plate. Tokyo is what, 2 weeks away?
We're 3 weeks away from Tokyo now.
You're in the tapering down stage?
I got one more long run and then I'll taper after that.
All right, how long are you going?
Time wise,
no, in your long run, what's the last one?
Well, mate, to be honest, we're a bit shorter. We've got a long year ahead, so I'm not going to peak too early.
Right, okay.
Probably the last one will be like a 28K, but Tokyo will be a very slow run for me. I'm not going to try and put a pace down. There's one where it's like Boston, London, that's 6 days apart, which will be a bit tough. Yeah, I know. I think get through these first 3 in this first block, and then maybe try and put a good time together for Berlin in about September.
All right. So have you got a time in mind for Tokyo?
I don't know. Nah, I'm going to leave it open. Everyone's like, what time are you going to get? I was like, I don't care about that at the minute. I'm just going to try and get through all 7. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. With good luck, and thanks for joining us.
Dude, thanks so much. I'm really appreciative, brother.
Yeah, it was brilliant.